exploration per se, but when you're talking about the Revolution, or if you're talking about the Civil War, then you're talking about, you know, big events like Battle of Bull Run, okay? Or when the Constitution was signed. Those are big events that you're going to want to highlight when you're talking about your notes. So then we talked about other things. What else could you have in your notes? Maybe not necessarily words, but what else could you have in your notes to help you? And so then, you know, somebody said pictures. So I said, great, that's awesome, perfect. Okay, you're going to want to have a picture or pictures of things that maybe help you remember what's going on. All right, so if we're talking about the compass rose, for instance, we can do north, south, east, west. So we're talking about a compass rose, okay? Maybe somebody doesn't remember the compass rose or what it is in general, okay? So maybe they need to draw a picture to help. Okay, great. What else? What about graphs, okay? Or Venn diagrams if we're comparing and contrasting. So we must have like graphs, you know, Venn diagram, pretty much in general, graphic sources to help us explain or understand the information that we're taking down. Now, bottom line is a lot of kids are going to try to copy down word for word, all right? And so we had a long talk about that. What is the purpose of not copying down word for word? What can we do instead? And we came up with the fact that these kids need to make sure that they are writing their notes. So you must write notes in your own words. Okay? Because otherwise you're going to be writing too much down again. And the purpose of this is for you to, you know, bullet, not write incomplete sentences, find things like vocabulary, dates, people, events, maybe draw a picture, but to put it in your own words. What do you understand from this? Because your notes are only going to benefit you. So the bottom line that we end with when we did this anchor chart was that it's do what works best for you. Okay? So at the bottom I said do what works best for you. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you most of these kids at this point in their education have not learned how to successfully take notes. So, this being the first time we're talking about it, we want to make sure that they know that not everybody is the same. We're all different people. We're all going to create our notes differently. The goal is to just be able to learn how to take notes and get that information and really decipher what's important versus what's not. And my job is going to be to help them to see what's important versus what's not. And then when they're older, they'll do it on their own. So that was the anchor chart that we did as a group. And then after I did the anchor chart, then I told them, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the lesson. And today, and every time, every social studies lesson is always on PowerPoint. So I will show them on a PowerPoint what they're going to be, we're going to talk about. And so while they're talking, I'm going to highlight things. So I'm going to give this a second to load. And while it's loading, I'm just going to say, all right, so here we go. We've got our slide here coming up. This is our first lesson, or I'm sorry, our second lesson that we're doing for Explorers, and we're going to be talking about East and West trade. So I'll show it up on the board. I'll say, all right, does anybody want to read? And someone will raise their hand and they'll read. And then I'll break down what they're saying. Okay, all right, so we're talking about the end of East and West trade and how basically the Silk Route was closed in Asia and people weren't able to explore or trade over there anymore. So the big goal throughout this was for the kids to be able to find, the people needed to find another way to trade. And so throughout the rest of this chapter, the whole goal is to find another way around to Asia, to trade with Asia. So we go through, what are some important things that we could write down? So I have the kids pull out their spiral notebook and I say, all right, so pull out your spiral notebook. Let's write down that we're doing this lesson to begin with. Background to European exploration, so right at the top. Background to European exploration, lesson 2. Then I will have them do a lesson or take the notes, and I will guide them through it. I'll say, okay, so let's talk about the fact that the Ottoman Empire is closed. Okay, so I'll write that down on the board. I'll say, look here, Europeans were willing to pay high prices for Asian goods in 1453. Oh, that's an important date, right? Because in 1453, the Turks from the Ottoman Empire captured the trading city of Constantinople. Hold on a minute, look over here at our content objectives. It states that we need to analyze how the Turks' capture of Constantinople affected European trade. So right now we see that this is what happened. What's the effect going to be of that? So we're going to explore that throughout the rest of this lesson. So what I do is throughout the PowerPoint, I will say, okay, these are important dates. This is an important word you need to know, and I'll underline things and they'll write those down. So throughout the lesson, things are going to happen. There's going to be side discussion, on different topics that come up. Connections is always something that happens. People will connect to their real life or another text or article or something they saw on TV. And I always like to also be sure to provide a secondary type of visual along with the lessons, just in case, they're not getting it from the discussion portion or from the visual of the PowerPoint. So this is Discovery Education, and our school has a subscription to it. And so, I'm just showing you the page, but typically what we would do is we would have the kids watch a video on, something pertaining to what they were learning. So this is Vasco da Gama, because we talk about Vasco da Gama and how he was an explorer for Portugal and how he began his exploration to find a new route to Asia. So I'll show them the video, then we'll talk about the video. And so when it comes down to it, the whole lesson is basically for them to understand the lesson by me providing the PowerPoint, providing the video, showing them how to take notes, really breaking down those content objectives. And then they're going to be analyzing what happened throughout this lesson. So once the students had the discussion with their group, they're going to do a think, pair, share. And so this is one of the last things that they end up doing, is they take their whiteboard and they think, pair, share on things that we have talked about as a whole group. And I'm sorry, things that they have talked about with their group. And throughout this lesson, I would walk around and I would say, oh, hey, Jimmy, I really like how you're taking notes. Hey, let's show Jimmy as an example of what he's done. What did he write down? Maybe Sally wants to write down the same thing. And so these are then distributed, and they can gather information as well based off of the content objectives. And then I want them to think, pair, share with another person in the room to kind of check for that understanding. So this was how the lesson ran, and pretty much at the way end, for the expansion, we had them go to the end of the the end of the lesson, and do a lesson review. And so for the EL students, I have modified versions of things, and they have modified readers, which help them to better understand what they are supposed to be learning as well. But really the visuals, the video, the anchor chart, the lesson on the PowerPoint, and then having the opportunity to write some stuff down and share with another was a bunch of activities that culminated to having the kids better understand what the objective was of the lesson and what it exactly is that they needed to explain to their partner. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.